My fellow colleagues, citizens, and all who hold the flame of science and progress dear, today, we find ourselves at a crossroads that demands both urgency and clarity. Across the globe, but especially here in Africa, scientists are awakening to a new era, one no longer cushioned by reliable streams of foreign aid. The United States, long a powerful benefactor in international scientific collaboration, has made dramatic cuts to research funding. These cuts are not just numbers in a ledger. They are blows to ongoing projects, setbacks to potential cures, and barriers to the global pursuit of knowledge. And they are a loud, unmistakable signal: we must become self-reliant. African scientists are responding, not with despair, but with determination. The call is clear: build our own infrastructure, train our own talent, and fund our own breakthroughs. For too long, we have operated under a system where critical funding, sophisticated instruments, and even basic supplies came with strings attached, often from partners whose political priorities shift without warning. Today, those warnings have come due. In laboratories across Africa, there is a new sense of urgency, but also of purpose. From Cape Town to Cairo, researchers are gathering in defiance of limitation. Institutions are pooling resources, universities are forging partnerships, and the private sector, long hesitant, is beginning to understand the value of investing in homegrown innovation. This is more than resilience. This is renaissance. Meanwhile, on the global stage, we are witnessing seismic changes. In the United States, decisions made in Washington are sending ripples that threaten to swamp the very foundations of science as we know it. A wave of new tariffs imposed on imported research equipment is about to send costs soaring. Basic lab supplies, pipettes, reagents, temperature-sensitive transport, are becoming harder to acquire and more expensive by the day. The sticker shock is real, and it's global. But even as the cost of collaboration rises, the cost of dependence becomes unbearable. Within the U.S., scientific institutions once thought untouchable are facing sudden and devastating blows. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, has been gutted at its very birthplace. The laboratories that pioneered modern weather and climate forecasting are losing staff, direction, and institutional memory. The consequences will be felt far beyond America's borders, as fewer forecasts and weaker models impact everything from hurricane preparation to agricultural planning worldwide. And then came the speech. President Trump took to the floor of Congress and offered science little but suspicion. There were no visionary commitments, no new funding, no call to arms in the face of pandemics or climate change. Instead, there was a jab at transgender research involving mice, framed as wasteful, derided as absurd. Within hours, the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, announced the termination of 7 NIH grants focused on gender studies in animals. Let us not mistake this for isolated mockery. It is part of a larger pattern, a deliberate hollowing out of science under the guise of fiscal responsibility. What is being lost is not just data or studies. It is dignity. It is the implicit trust that science, at its best, serves the public good above partisan squabbles. Federal workers on probation, many of them young scientists, fresh PhDs, early career epidemiologists, have been fired en masse. But now, in a confusing reversal, some of them are being called back. The CDC's prestigious Laboratory Leadership Service program, which had been axed, has begun to restore some positions. One fellow expressed joy at returning, but also fear of the next political swing. The next wave of uncertainty. How can science thrive under such precarity? These events are not occurring in a vacuum. At the Department of State, pollution monitoring programs, once hailed as a quiet but crucial force for environmental diplomacy, are being quietly dismantled. Budget constraints, the official reason. But who will monitor the air that citizens breathe in cities from New Delhi to Nairobi, now that the rooftop sensors at U.S. embassies are going dark? Even the buildings that house science are now at risk. Federal facilities, labs equipped with tens of millions in technology, are being closed, abandoned, or sold. One Street, Lewis facility, newly renovated and rich with specialized instruments, was slated for closure to save $20 million, after $10 million had just been spent to modernize it. Scientists estimated the lab held up to $100 million in equipment. Common sense lost to politics. That decision was later reversed, but how many others won't be? These are not just policy shifts. These are symptoms of a growing disregard for evidence, for discovery, for the careful work that science requires. But there is hope. Hope in the renewed energy among African scientists. Hope in the rising realization that we can no longer wait for others to value our work, we must value it ourselves. Hope in the knowledge that necessity births innovation, and from this moment of crisis may come a new model of science, decolonized, self-funded, and sovereign. We cannot afford to rely on governments that see science as a line item to be slashed, or worse, as a threat to ideology. We must create systems that protect inquiry, fund creativity, and honor truth. To our brothers and sisters in science across the world, this is not the end. It is a turning point. It is time to build our own labs, write our own grants, and publish our own findings without fear of retribution or political whim. Let us rise to this challenge. Let us invest in ourselves, not out of pride, but out of necessity. Let us ensure that never again will the fate of our research rest in the hands of a distant administration. Let this moment be remembered not for what we lost, but for what we chose to build. Together.